Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. The subcommittee today is made up of Councillors Noel Hadjiamichael, Andrew Sillett and Ty Allen. The first item of business is the appointment of a chair for the meeting. May I ask subcommittee members to nominate a chair for the meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor Hadjiamichael.
Thank you. Councillor Sillett, is that agreed?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Hadjiamichael is in the chair.
Thank you very much for that, and hopefully you can hear me clearly. This meeting is being broadcast live, recorded, and will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel. The agenda is available on the Council's website by following the links to Your Council and decision-making, consultations and surveys, and then committee agendas and minutes. The quorum for this meeting is 3 members, and all will need to be present at all times. If any subcommittee member or the legal advisor loses their connection, we will pause to allow them to rejoin as soon as possible. To reduce feedback, could everyone mute their microphone when not speaking? After the subcommittee has heard the submissions, I will ask if members have any questions on the submission. Members can also indicate that they wish to speak by using the chat function. Please do not use the chat function to ask questions of officers or members, and remember that all meeting participants on the video call will be able to see what has been entered in the chat. Please, can everyone keep mobile phones in silent mode or switched off during the meeting. I am Councillor Noel Hadjiamichael, and I will now introduce the other participants. We have Councillor Andrew Sillett, Councillor Ty Allen.
Yeah, good morning.
Guy Bishop, our legal advisor.
Morning.
Binny Day, licensing officer.
Good morning.
We have Stephanie Bruce Smith, counsel for MPS, I believe.
Yes, good morning.
We have PC, is it Jeremy Weston from Kingston Town Police?
Yeah, good morning.
We have, do we have PC Lee Hopkins on the line?
Good morning to you all.
Excellent. John Simpson, Lead Officer for Pollution Control.
Good morning, everybody.
And on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Graham Hopkins, Mrs. Linda Potter and Mr. Eslam Guniam. And my apologies if I've mispronounced anyone's name.
No, that's right. Good morning.
Good morning.
We also have a member of Democratic Services in attendance who will come to my aid if we miss a step. So importantly, we now go to declarations of interest. Does any member of the subcommittee have a pecuniary interest, a non-registrable interest, or other registrable interest to declare in relation to any application before us today?
No.
Thank you for that. I now go to the minutes. Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting held on 2 July 2004 as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you. I will subsequently sign them at a later date. We now go to the procedure part of today. The parties have already been notified of the usual procedures for licensing hearings as set out on pages 3 to 5 of the agenda. Paragraph 57 on page 4 of the agenda pack deals with notification of the decision following the subcommittee's deliberations. This will firstly be confirmed by email later today, and full details and reasons will follow within 5 working days. Are there any objections to proceeding on the basis of these procedures? Thank you for that. We now move on to the hearing. This is Morley's Chicken Kingston, 46 Fife Road, Kingston upon Thames, KT1 1SU, an application for a variation of a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003. You will find it on Appendix A on the agenda papers. We now go to the Licensing Officer presentation. I now call on Binny Day, the Licensing Officer present, to introduce the report on this application.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to Morley's Chicken Kingston, 46 Fife Road, Kingston upon Thames, KT1 1SU. The application was made on 22nd of May 2024 by Kier 79 Limited. The application seeks a variation to their existing premises licence to extend the opening hours and the provision of late night refreshment, Sundays to Thursdays until 0100 the following morning, Fridays and Saturdays until 0300 the following morning. After 2300 every day, the restaurant area shall be closed and seated customers will not be permitted, i.e. a takeaway and delivery service only. There are no changes sought to the hours for the sale by retail of alcohol, and all conditions attached to the existing premises licence are to remain. Currently, the premises benefits from a premises licence which authorises the provision of late night refreshment Friday and Saturday from 2300 to 0200 hours the following morning, whereby after midnight, the restaurant area shall be closed and seated customers are not permitted, i.e. a takeaway and delivery service only, and Sunday to Thursday from 2300 to 2330 hours. The licence also authorises on and off sales of alcohol Monday to Sunday from 1000 to 2300 hours. Relevant pages of the application form are attached at Annex 1, and the current licence is attached as Annex 2. The current and proposed hours of operation are laid out in Annex 3. I confirm that the applicant has advertised the application by way of public notice displayed at the premises and in a local newspaper. The application has also been made available on the Council's website. I confirm that all responsible authorities received a copy of the application. A representation was received from the Metropolitan Police Service in relation to the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. The Council's Environmental Health Officer for Pollution Control also made a representation to the application in relation to the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. These representations are attached at Annex 4. In accordance with the Council's licensing policy, 354 addresses were consulted in writing and informed that an application had been received. No representations were received from other persons. The Metropolitan Police and the applicant have submitted additional material since the publication of the agenda for this meeting. This includes a further statement from the Metropolitan Police Service Licensing Officer to support their representation, and from the applicant an amended dispersal policy and a proposed revision of Condition 25 in Annex 2 of the current premises licence. These are found at Appendix A of each late material pack. A map showing the approximate location of the premises is attached as Annex 5, and some photographs of the premises and surrounding area are attached for your information as Annex 6. In considering this report, you are required to take into account the Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, the Council's Statement of Licensing Policy, and the licensing objectives. The Council's Statement of Licensing Policy includes guidelines on trading hours, and these guideline hours are shown in the tables contained within Annex 7. You are asked to determine the application having regard to the representations received and any evidence heard at the hearing. in line with the options set out in paragraph 15 of the licensing report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions of the officer?
No.
I don't have any questions.
Benny, thank you very much for the report, and thank you for making particular reference to all the late material that did come before us. We now go to the next stage of the process, which is the applicant's submission. I now call on the applicant to give a summary of their application. Paragraph 47 on page 3 of the agenda pack deals with the length of time an applicant can speak. The applicant has up to 10 minutes to present their submission. Alice will advise you when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up. So I welcome the applicant making their submission.
Good morning, Chair. That will be myself on behalf of Mr. Ganeen. Mr. Ganeen is the franchise holder, operator of the premises and director of Kia 79 Limited. He's one of his joint managers who's also with us today, if they can be of assistance. Mr. Ganeen had this premises originally and then sublet it in October 22, finally taking the lease back in on the 18th of April this year. In the interim, the previous operator, sublet, if you like, had applied for the Morley's franchise and turned the premises into the restaurant it is today. The service provided normally during normal hours is by dine-in, customer collection and home delivery through the usual couriers, Uber Eats, etc., etc. Obviously, Mr. Ganeen was unaware of some of the problems that subsequently came to light during discussions with PC Hopkins. No relation, by the way. Prior to the 18th, he was not the operator or the in control of the premises. He is now, and from the initial time that he took over, was working through sorting out the issues that had arisen and were later identified by the police, and subsequently has worked, I would submit, closely with the police in addressing those issues and getting them speedily resolved so that the licence is now compliant. You will have seen a letter from PC Hopkins dated, I think it's the 21st of June, but confirming that other issues have been resolved and there were 2 cameras to be replaced, which have been replaced. I've seen them all working myself. I think the police have. And also raising the issue of the dispersal policy, which has been submitted. And we have asked that arranged that is included in all staff training and that the staff will be required to implement it. So I would submit that Mr. Ganeen has demonstrated he will work with the police and other RAs in a positive way. The premises is, as you know, not located in a CIZ, and this variation must be considered on its own merits. The current license is not up for consideration because it's a variation application. On the application, Mr. Ganeen has specified that he wants the variation to allow customer collections and home deliveries. So those are the 2 areas he's within the extended hours. Those are the 2 areas he's looking at. The restaurant will, as you've heard, be closed to dine-in customers at 11 o'clock on every night of the week, 2,300 hours. And there are tapes which are behind me on the wall, which are pulled round the tables where we're sitting now and to where I'm sitting to your right of me. So the tables can all be taped away. They're in clear view of the staff, and there are notices to say that they can't be used after 11 o'clock. So that area has been covered. PC Hopkins refers to breaches of conditions in his representation. as I've said, these arose under the previous operator, and Mr. Ganeen was working through them. And I believe we submit they are now all compliant. And I'll refer you, Mr. PC Hopkins' letter was actually dated the 19th of June. It's at page A10 of the late material bundle A1. So we submit then that all issues raised by the police concerning their inspections have been addressed. What we are proposing, Chair, is that for Friday and Sunday, after obviously till 2 o'clock is the current license, but after 2 until 3, if members do grant the variation today, that will be by home deliveries only. So on a Friday and Saturday, the period 2 to 3 would only be served by customers who phoned in, and a driver that comes to pick up an order. All the exterior lights will be turned off. The lighting in where we're seated now on the customer seating area of the restaurant will be turned off, and the front door will be kept locked. The procedure we wish to adopt is that the driver will come to the door, knock on it, give his order. They will remain outside. The food will be given to them, and they're away and gone. So there's no need for drivers to hang around outside. During discussions with the police, they did mention blinds at the windows. That, as Mr. Ganeen has identified, is not practical for health and safety and hygiene reasons. Also, the window, the front window where they wanted the hatch put, is a very large window, and we consider it's not practical. In fact, my view of that would be that it'll actually encourage passers-by to come and knock on that window and ask for a takeaway order when we don't want them to do that. We want the drivers to come and the passing trade not to knock on or be near the premises after 2 o'clock, because that service will not be available. So I think we've covered those points. So the proposed amendment to the application only refers to Friday and Saturday. We want to keep the requests for both home deliveries and customer collections Sunday to Thursday, but that is to a much earlier time. It's only from 11:30 till 1 o'clock. Now, whilst we appreciate that times do exceed the council's framework hours, with respect, they are framework hours, it's not the law of the land. We suggest that if you are satisfied that the premises will uphold the licensing objectives, which we say they will, there's a very long list of conditions on the license which is now compliant, and those conditions plus the revised condition 25, which I'll mention briefly, it referred to risk assessments. We are proposing that the shop does the restaurant does a daily risk assessment, taking into account any advice received from the police, local events taking place, to identify the need for additional staff to be on duty. We have minimum of 4 on duty Fridays and Saturdays, and one of the managers, as you've heard, one is here today, Mr. Talib. Either he's here or his colleague is here at all times during opening hours. So management is present at times and adequate staffing. So that will also lead to a reduction in turnaround times. Plus, of course, the restaurant is closed to dining customers after 11 o'clock on any night. So we would like to keep the request Sunday to Thursday for both home deliveries and customer collections. There is, as we all know, the nightclub round the corner, but I've seen it myself. There is a shop there open till 5. So any suggestion that their customers will permeate the side streets and come down 5 Road rather than go down Clarence streets of takeaway that's right opposite them, we think are not sustainable or not proven. This premises will not attract large groups of people. We do want the home deliveries for the extra hour on a Friday and Saturday, and we want to be able to serve customers, people who know this shop well. It's built up a reputation. It's a good restaurant, and we'd like to have that opportunity to supply them both by home deliveries and customer collections Sunday to Thursday for the additional hour and a half. I can point out to members, although Morley's does have a license to sell alcohol, Mr. Ganeen neither stocks it or sells it. We don't, don't want to give the license back for obvious reasons, but it is not in practice used. It is in any case limited to people taking a table meal, so it's ancillary to food. But the terminal hour is 11 o'clock, does not enter into this variation anyway. But in practice, they don't serve. So I think it's fair to say that Morley's will not add to the intoxication levels. Rather, by selling hot food, we suggest they are providing people an opportunity to get a meal, take it home with them, or as they go along, and consume it preferably at home. But that spoke up the thank you. Very briefly, there are no representations from any resident. I think that's important. We've heard 350 people written to, properly advertised. The very people that have been most impacted have not raised any objection against this restaurant during its current or proposed hours. I think with the list of conditions that we've offered, I would also highlight the fact that the police sergeant in his witness statement highlights police concerns, obviously, but also states nothing can be attributed to the venue in terms of crime incidents. So a well-run, responsible premises, a man who's demonstrated that he will work with the police. He's given them CCTV footage in the past. I would ask the panel, taking everything into account, to should also mention he's aware of Wave and Ask Angela, happy to operate that and will be operating that. Safe haven for vulnerable people. We would ask you to grant the variation, Chair, as amended on a Friday and Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Now we go to members asking questions with respect to the submission by the applicant. Do members have any questions? Councillor Sillett.
Having heard this submission, could I ask a question to the police officers?
Alice, is that better done later in the proceedings?
I would suggest so, that we wait until the police submission. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think very much the focus is on the applicant's submission. We're going in stages. Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to collection after 11 p.m, if there's a large crowd queuing up, how would you manage that? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sorry, Councillor. Are you referring to Friday and Saturdays in particular?
Sorry?
Are you referring to Friday and Saturdays or all week?
Well, all week.
Okay, well, the first part is restaurant, the dine inside will be closed completely at 11 o'clock. The seats are taped off, like ribboned off, so that they're identified as not for use. So customers will be told and will be advised that the service is only customer collection until if the variation is granted until Sunday to Thursday, and until 2 Friday or Saturday. And after that, it would only be home delivery. So they can manage the dine-in side of it, because that's established at the moment that they are only dining after up to 12 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday anyway. So that principle's established. We've just moved it forward to 11 because it will be sort of not encourage people to loiter in the town centre, have a meal, sit around, and then go out later and make a noise. That won't happen. With regard to customer collection, for example, on a Saturday night at 2 o'clock, we're proposing the door will be locked. There will be no facility for them to come and get a collection.
Okay. Thank you. One other question, if I may, Chair. The police mentioned an incident that happened on the 1st of June. A group of people gathering outside, making noise, playing music. It's a recent incident. How can you assure that that's not going to happen again? I know you have a dispersal policy and you have given some assurances, but how would you make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, the delivery drivers are coming to this restaurant will be coming for a specific purpose. They will have an order. I don't know, it could be Deliveroo, Just Eats, Uber Eats. They will have a specific order. Will come here. There's a loading bay out the front anyway, where they could stop safely, come to the door, knock, give their order number, collect the food and go. There is no need for groups of drivers to hang around outside. They will have actually been asked by Mr. Ganeen to point out, under the terms of the dispersal policy, the staff will be checking the outside physically every 30 minutes. But we've also got 2 cameras outside to cover the frontage and the pavements, in line with the data protection law. So we can see what's going on. There's a monitor in the premises. Staff can see it both on the CCTV and physically, but they will be going out to make sure drivers are not hanging around. That's included in the dispersal policy. That's now part of the staff training, and they are all tasked to implement that policy.
Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins, through you to the applicant, if I may, unless Councillor Sillett has another question up his sleeve. If I could, noting very much that, you know, ownership is very important, but also management and supervision. How stable and in a non-turnover sense, how long-standing is the management and supervisory staff at the business at the moment? You know, how far back do they go in terms of knowledge and experience?
How long have you had
The premises here?
Yeah.
Since 2020.
But I can tell you, Chair, that Mr. Ganeen has owned had the lease on this premises until 2020. As I said, he did sublet it for a period of time because he's got other businesses. He's got a business. Is that a restaurant?
The one in Charing
Yeah.
Cross,
Yeah. He's actually got another restaurant in Charing Cross, which I believe, if I remember rightly, I dealt with that one as well. Got his license on that. But yeah, he is an experienced operator within the hospitality food outlets trade, for want of a better description. I think Mr. Talpy's been around some time. How long have you been involved in the film?
2022, since the open.
Yeah, Mr. Talpy, who's the duty manager, joint manager, sitting with us now, he's actually been working here since 2022. Obviously had to do whatever the previous operator wanted, but he now works for Mr. Ganeen and is one of the joint managers. Either he's here or his colleague is here. I think he's been around the other manager for a similar period of time. So they've got experience of working in this premises, and Mr. Ganeen is an experienced operator himself. So we have got stability. Mr. Ganeen's here for the long term.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That was actually the underlying question that I had, was that if the current managerial supervisors were in operational control of the business over the last few years, when there were incidents where there were instances of breach of license from the papers I've seen, what has changed with respect to that? Because I am concerned about the continuity of compliance and notwithstanding Mr. Ganeen's return to active ownership.
Well, the main change here is obviously Mr. Ganeen has brought his control into the premises, his management system, and he's quite very strict with his staff, but he is now in day-to-day control of the premises. He is the franchise holder, the leaseholder, director of the company, and I think, looking back at the dealings with the police over the last couple of months since he's taken over direct control of the premises, the previous tenant, sublessee, is no longer here. He's not in charge. Mr. Ganeen is. It's his business. Not only is he the director of the operating company, he is here along with his 2 managers. So that has changed, and he's brought that experience. Mr. Ganeen has brought the experience he's got from central London out to Kingston, and I think the way the premises has run in the last 2.5 months since he took over has demonstrated that. He's shown that he worked with the police. He has given them CCTV footage of things that have happened when they've requested it. And the license is now compliant. The police have confirmed that. We've had the cameras done. The issue label was outstanding. We've got the dispersal policy. He's moving in a positive way, and that influence will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Unless there are any further questions from members on this part, I might move to the next section, which is we have responsible authorities. As referred in the report, the Metropolitan Police and the Environmental Protection Officer have both made representations on this application. These are set out on pages A28 to A32 of the agenda reports pack and in the late materials. Representatives from the Metropolitan Police and the Council's Pollution Control Team are both in attendance today. I will first call on the licensing officer for the Metropolitan Police, PC, is it Lee Weston, or have I misread my notes, and Stephanie Bruce Smith, the Metropolitan Police Council, to make their submission. You have up to 5 minutes to speak. Alice will advise you when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up.
Thank you, Chair. I will be making the representations on behalf of the police. The subcommittee will have read the initial representations submitted by the police, which you'll find at A28 to 31 of your agenda pack, in addition to the further representations, which consist of a letter from PC Hopkins and attached material that was submitted last week. And just to summarise, the main concerns of the police can be found in the witness statement of PS Weston at page A30 to 31. And there are two brief contextual points for the committee. And the first is that Fife Road, on which the premises is located, is within a crime hotspot that's identified as such due to the high levels of violent crime. And it has the attention of senior leadership at Kingston, that is at the police team at Kingston, in addition to the Home Office. And you'll have seen that the police strategy currently falls under Operation Nightingale, which is a Home Office initiative to tackle violence in London. In addition to this violent crime context, the area is known locally by the police due to the antisocial behaviour, including drug use, drug supply, and street drinking. And it is in this context that the police consider that the proposed extension, even though it's only by 1 hour during the weekend and 1.5 hours during the week, would undermine the licensing objectives, particularly the objective of preventing crime and disorder. And this is because it would undermine the policing plan in the immediate area and what the police are working to achieve, namely a reduction in violent crime and antisocial behaviour. While the police welcome the actions that has been taken in recent weeks by Morley's to address the condition breaches that were identified by PC Hopkins during his visit on the 1st of June, the police nevertheless cannot support this extension. This is because the main issue, as you'll have seen from the witness statement of PS Weston, is not how the premises operate, but the operation of this type of premises in this area during these hours. And for the avoidance of doubt, the dispersal policy does not alleviate the concerns of the police. And that this is because even if this policy were to work correctly, the police consider it will serve only to move any issues to a neighbouring street, which would nevertheless be within this crime hotspot or high-risk area. By way of a final point, I just wish to refer the committee to, or you have seen indeed, reference to a meeting that took place between the police and the licence holder on the 18th of June in the further representations of PC Hopkins. which in short notes that if the premises can demonstrate that it was able to manage the existing antisocial behaviour issues in the current hours, and this is if it can demonstrate that given this previous history of some breaches, the police may be willing to support an extension of hours for delivery only in future. However, this would require further discussions and tailored conditions to allow this to happen in a way that the police consider would be low risk. And for example, the police have stated that the premises must appear closed from the outside, the doors must be locked, and a hatch will be fitted for deliveries. And this would prevent people coming into the premises either asking for food or hanging around, and those issues. And this is not something, given these changes that the police consider are needed, that is capable of being considered as part of this application. Now, we've heard just in the submissions by the applicant a proposal that on weekends only the applicant is willing to open just for deliveries, and that it proposes to have the doors locked and the lights off. But there are no conditions to this effect, and it's not clear how this would be practical, because the doors must indeed be opened to allow for delivery. So, and if the premises is proposing they will be locked and then opened, it's difficult for this either to be enforced, and also further issues may arise in terms of people waiting for the doors to be unlocked. And as we said, first of all, there are no conditions to this effect, and in any event, this does not go as far as the police consider to be necessary. I note the time, so all we'll say is that we are willing to answer any further questions on this particular point and anything else that the committee have. But in short, the police maintain its objection for these reasons and those set out in the representations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just wait for Councillor Sillett to get back on his seat. He's not in trouble. This is what happens when you can see people. But do we have any questions? Alice, you want to raise something?
Yeah, sorry, can I just check Guy that, oh yeah, perfect. Sorry, I was just checking that Guy was still present. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, no, thank you very much for that. Councillor Sillett, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Really, it's about the weekend delivery only. What problems do you? I mean, if we attached conditions, could we attach conditions that would satisfy the concerns to allow this business to do delivery only? Would that satisfy the police objections to the weekend delivery only application for the extra hour?
Well, I'll just briefly address that, and I might just direct your question then to PC Hopkins in case there's anything to add. But the first point is the police consider that the proposals just to close to turn off the lights and lock the doors. First of all, it's difficult to see how these would be practical, because you cannot keep the doors locked if you need to open them, and they don't go as far as the police consider to be necessary, which would be something along the lines of a separate hatch. And this is because once the doors are open, it would allow people to walk in and potentially have people walking off the streets or trying to request deliveries. That's the first point. And again, the second point is you can't really attach a condition to maintain the doors being locked at all times if they must be opened. But what I will do is, so that's kind of the first issue. The second issue, and this comes out quite clearly in PC Hopkins' letter, is that this is something the police consider this is something the police would like to see only after the premises has demonstrated that it is complying with the existing conditions to manage the antisocial behaviour. Because as the committee will have noticed, there have been previous issues in the run-up to this application, which have now been addressed, but the police would like to see that the premises can demonstrate that this will be maintained for a period before going on to look at extending the hours. But I just want to pass over, just in case PC Hopkins or even PS Weston have anything further to add on that, as they have more direct knowledge of the premises.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Councillor. I mean, it's a tricky one in relation to, can we put conditions in place to control the antisocial behaviour for deliveries only? We can certainly look at trying to get some measures there. Can it be managed by the venue? The answer is we're unsure. It's very hard to manage for the likes of delivery drivers that are coming into the venue. We're asking Morley's to control them. Can they do that? Well, it's an answer that I can't give you, but certainly we can try and implement some sort of measures to assist with reducing antisocial behaviour. Because as witnessed by myself and as witnessed previously by a CAD that's came in earlier, you know, there is a large collection of delivery drivers outside. Music is being played, antisocial. It's a place to meet, it's a place to congregate. Well, that might be because the lights are on, because the doors are open. It's quite a place for them to come to. So it could be that if we do reduce the lighting, if we do have the door locked, because there still would be a concern that if that door was allowed to be open, that customers would walk in. So that was the idea around the serving hatch. I have to put my hands up and say I'm not the key knowledge matter expert here, which is why I'd like other responsible authorities to be involved in these discussions. It might be my colleagues over in environmental health think this is a horrendous idea. I don't know, but I can only talk about from the policing side of things. But my ask would be that we work with the venue, but the venue's got to prove itself as well.
Have you got an idea of a timescale when you mention what sort of period of time?
I don't. For me personally, a good timescale would be 6 months to see if that venue is, and I acknowledge that the fact that the applicant's done a wonderful amount of work to get measures in place, as I would expect they would do, because an application has gone in to extend the hours. It's maintaining that level. And I'm hoping that can be done between the applicant and the Metropolitan Police. And if that's done, then we can all sit down and discuss how these measures could be put in place if they can. But that, I think, would have to be done with the local authority, the environmental health, the police, and also Mr. Hopkins as well, to get all that in place, if that makes sense.
Just another question, if I may.
Certainly.
The extension of the hours in the week to 1 o'clock, is there any wiggle room, do you think? Is there any sort of hours where you feel, I mean, the framework hours, I believe, are 12 midnight in the week. Is there a time where you feel it becomes problematic, this venue being open, attracting crowds? Is there any kind of leeway that we can give the applicant regarding those hours in the
Regarding customer delivery, I think the framework's 11 o'clock during the week. I think I'll ask Billy to correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think they've already got they benefit from extended hours already during the week. And I remember this from the previous application a couple of years ago. I can hand that over to Jeremy Weston, who does the policing of that, those sort of times. He experiences that firsthand. He sees what goes on. I don't. I have to be honest. I put my hands up again and say I don't see what goes on later on in those hours. So if you don't mind, I'll hand that over to my colleague who polices the town centre.
Morning, everyone. It's Jeremy Weston, Police Sergeant for the Kingston Town Centre. I believe the question is directed in the week.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Is there a problem time? They're asking from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. Is there a particular time frame in the week that you're concerned about groups gathering?
I'd say Wednesday to Saturday. So in a week, yes, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. In my particular opinion, people do, although it is the week, people do congregate. Crime is being committed throughout the week there. It's not just orientated around the weekend. You know, I am talking from the angle of the area itself, not Morley's, the venue in particular. In that particular area, Fife Road and associated roads, instant crime is occurring throughout the week. So yes, I envisage extensions in the week to 1 AM would cause rides to ASB in the area, congregation, and such like incidents.
Is there a particular time that you're worried about? Is there a time when clubs empty that intensifies that problem?
I'd say anything over 10. The local nightclub, Prism, they host events in the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, Vinny.
Thank you. Now, just a point of confirmation, really. So in relation to the guideline hours as detailed within the Kingston's Council's licensing policy, so business of this type, the guideline hours for their opening, Sundays to Thursdays is until 2300 hours, Fridays and Saturdays until midnight, just for your information.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any further questions of the police? Thank you very much. I will now move forward to the next stage, but I thank officers of the police for their submissions and answering our questions. I now go to our next person to be called, John Simpson, Lead Officer for Pollution Control for the Council.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here giving representation on behalf of my colleague, Mr. O'Dell, who unfortunately can't be here today. Our representation falls under the public nuisance aspect of the licensing policy. The premises already has the ability to operate outside of the council's prescribed hours. Given the nature of the business and the likelihood of noise, we feel no need for that to be extended any further at this time. Having listened to some of the representation today and the change to go to delivery only within this time, and the subsequent late information under the dispersal policy, this possibly does contain some good information, but unfortunately that is dispersal. It doesn't deal with, obviously, in this case, either patrons or delivery people turning up late at night with their scooters, with their doors opening and closing, music playing. Obviously, once they've already turned up and arrived at the venue, the damage is already done and the residents are already disturbed, and their evening or night time sleep is broken. So on this occasion, we see no reason to extend the hours of operation.
Thank you very much, John. Members, do we have any questions of the officer? Councillor Sillett.
I take note that when the officer called round, there was a lot of noise being played outside, but I think partly by delivery drivers. But there've been no complaints from residents, and people live, above and around that area. Could any explanation at all for that?
I can't answer the residents not complain. As we know, Fife Road does have a number of residents. I know when the premises was being built and when it first opened, there was a number of complaints about loud music being made from the premises, which obviously appreciate. Once we contacted them, that situation was resolved. Excuse me, my dog's just decided to bark. It hasn't barked all day, always the way. But from experience, not just at this location, delivery drivers do hang around outside waiting for jobs. It's not like they get a call and then they'll get there. I mean, we have in other areas of the borough where they just hang around outside just waiting because they know that they have to grab those jobs as quickly as they can, otherwise they go to somebody else. And is it fair? And as I say, for a safety aspect, is it fair for staff to be put in the position where they have to be going told to disperse people? There's a number of situations that really aren't helping, and as I say, I've had it before where we've spoken to people and said, "Can you move around?" and then just say, "No, we're not going to do it." Uber Eats, Just Eats, although they listen to you when we complain, they don't actually do much about it to help. So, as it's already going past the policy, we see no need for it to extend at this time.
Thank you.
Councillor Tylan, do you have any questions of the officer?
No, thank you.
Lee, you've raised your hand.
It was, sorry, Chair, can you hear me? Apologies. It was just in relation to Councillor Sillett's sort of question in relation to any complaints received. I just wanted to bring his attention that I've done my research and gone back just for 2 months in relation to the area. There is a local resident complaint. It is in my statement, CAD 1249 of the 5th of May, which does highlight that local residents are complaining of noise in that area caused by play fighting, loud music, vehicles, etc. So just to highlight that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. John.
Can I just add on to that? Kingston obviously don't have an out of hours noise service, so it's not uncommon for residents to contact the police, who know we're not on duty, to try and attend these significant episodes at the time of occurrence, rather than just reporting it online and waiting for us to pick up on the Monday morning. They do contact the police more frequently. Oh, apologies. That wasn't me again. Let's move my mouse. It's going up again. Apologies.
That's okay, John. Now just make sure, Alice, have we still got everyone on the line, just to make sure everything's compliant?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Chair.
Super. No, that's okay. Sometimes you get the feeling that there's only half of us here. It's with the screens. Now, thank you for that, and thank you to our pollution control officer. We now move on to the category other persons. As we've heard already, as set out in the report, 354 addresses were consulted in writing and informed that an application had been received. No representations were received from other persons. Therefore, on that basis, we will move on to the applicant's closing statement. I would like to ask the applicant team whether or not they'd like to make a closing statement at this stage.
Yes, Sharon, we will, thank you. I wasn't aware if the police and the noise officer had to go first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, Councillor.
Okay, my apologies. Sorry, Mr. Bishop, have I misread my script?
I'm sure you haven't, but normally it would be an opportunity for the police to respond with their own closing before closing by the applicant.
Okay, then why don't we do the absolutely prim and proper thing? And my apologies for my eyesight. I may need to use my spectacles next time I sit in the chair. So if we could ask the police then for their closing statement.
Thank you, Chair. The police have very little to add to what has been said. The only points that we wish to emphasise are those that were raised in response to some of the questions, which is that the police, if there is to be any additional conditions or additional delivery, additional hours to the license, the police would first like to see this premises operating correctly in compliance with this license for at least 6 months. It is only after that period that the police would like to would propose that there could be an extension to the hours, and that this would need to be done with further consultation among the other relevant authorities or branches that might have more experience of this, including the environmental health officer. But in summary of what has already been said and what you will have seen in the representations, the police would maintain its objection to any further hours, both in terms of during the week, which, as PS Weston outlined, also has there are also issues of antisocial behaviour during the periods between 11 and 1 a.m. and on weekends, and this is particularly due to the nature of this area and the potential for increased antisocial behaviour and crime in that area if these hours are if the extension to the hours is permitted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience as I get through the procedures here. We now go to the final closing submission by the applicant and his team, and my apologies for the misstep. So I think Mr. Hopkins, I think you're next again.
Thank you, Chair. I did just wonder in view of Mr. Bishop's comments whether your noise officer wanted to say anything.
John, is there anything closing from yourself? I sensed possibly not.
No, obviously stand by our objection. We wouldn't necessarily support the police's time period of the 6 months, because unfortunately the sort of noises that we're talking about, the disturbance, isn't controllable by the applicant. It's controllable by the delivery drivers, Uber, Just Eat, which from experience is not controllable. And again, we just don't support the additional hours due to licensing policy.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Hopkins, I think the stage is now yours.
Thank you, Chair, very much. Just very briefly, our position is you have before you a responsible operator who has demonstrated that he works with the police despite their comments. He has worked with them quickly since he's taken the shop back over. And obviously I'm talking about Mr. Ganeen. He's worked with them quickly to get the previous faults rectified. They are all rectified. We've changed the 5-7 extension to home delivery only. So that's the request before you, with measures to ensure it works. It is within the subcommittee's remit to impose conditions, as your colleague has mentioned. We're proposing the restaurant lights are turned out, the shop door is locked, and we don't play music, so that's not a problem. But the door is locked, outside lights off, the inside lights off, except behind the counter, which would have to be on for hygiene and health and safety reasons. That could and will work. Question of somebody pushing the door open has been mentioned. That's not going to happen. It's locked. All they have to do is give an order number. It's locked again. The food's passed out. I've seen this happen in other venues in London, and it works successfully. So I don't think the committee needs to worry about that too much. We're asking Sunday to Thursday till 1 o'clock for both collections and home deliveries. We have offered that additional condition. There's 60 odd conditions on this license already, so I don't think we could cope with too much more before it sank. We have offered a dispersal policy. The police have turned around and said that moves the problem elsewhere. Well, wouldn't any dispersal policy to an extent do that? That's the question I've got for them. This may be a crime hotspot. It is not a punitive impact zone, so it's not an automatic case of a rebuttable presumption to refuse. So I am asking you to consider it. I do not consider that it will move the noise. If they're dispersing people down the primary road, which is Clarence Street, from Prism, there's no reason to believe all the people at 3 o'clock are going to come around here. They've mentioned Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. Well, we're not open at 3 o'clock in the morning when Prism closed anyway. We're only open later on a Friday and Saturday, not Wednesday, Thursday or the other nights. So we consider that's not a proven point. I can't see the point of pushing this back down the line for 6 months. You've got a man sitting on my right who's demonstrated he'll work with the police. He's been open with them. He's done what he's been asked for faults that weren't his originally. That he wasn't in charge of. He is now. So we've got no faults. I think we covered the point that the door will not be left unlocked. It'll be opened by a member of staff, order number taken, locked, unlocked, food passed out, that's it. People aren't going to get in, and if they did push in, they won't get served anyway. There is quite a high counter around this serve route behind me, and with 4 or 5 guys in here, I don't think they're going to get served. They'll soon get the message. Regarding the comments made by your noise officer, I would just point out to the panel, to the subcommittee, no 354 people that were written to and seen the notice on the restaurant window, etc., etc. None of them have objected. One complaint has been mentioned by the officer relating to the incident on 1st of June, which we accept was noisy drivers, not necessarily just associated with this premises. They're only going to come here if they've got an order. That's how the food system works. I use it myself, my partner and I use it regularly. They only come to you when you place an order. So they can't, Morley's cannot be blamed for everything that happens outside. It's not, I stress, it's not a CIZ. So I asked the panel to bear that in mind. And against the fact we have no representations from any of those residents, one noise for one isolated incident, the sergeant's comments in his own statement saying none of the other incidents that happened on Fife Road were attributed to this record. So I would say it's reasonable that we ask you to grant this amended on the Friday and Saturday as a plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We now have the subcommittee will be withdrawing to make its decision. The decision will be confirmed to all parties by email, and the full decision notice with reasons will then be sent to all parties within 5 working days. Can I please ask members of the subcommittee to reconvene in the decision meeting as soon as possible? Please also note that the second hearing that was listed for 11 AM has been cancelled, the Royal Oak hearing, as the application has been withdrawn. I would like to thank everyone who participated today, and this brings the hearing to a close. Thank you very much.